Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Penapple and today I'm doing a Halloween maze speed build. So if you're interested in this build, you can download it off of the gallery. My origin ID is penappleYT. This is a room build. It's a 24 by 24 room build. It costs about 82,000 simoleons. So it's pretty expensive. I imagine it as being placed more on a community lot. Or a very, very rich person wanting a Halloween maze. And it took me about an hour and 75, or an hour 0.75 minutes. Yeah, an hour, 1.75 hours to build. Sorry, that was like unnecessarily confusing. And so I'd made one of these before last year, and it's actually one of my more popular builds on the gallery. And even though we didn't get necessarily any new spooky stuff, I decided that I wanted to build it again, and I had some new fresh ideas that I added into this. And so I am really excited to show it to you guys. Plus this one is bigger and better. The last one was 19 by 18 squares, which I don't know why it's not perfectly square. That's weird. And it cost 31,000 simoleons, and you can find both of these on the gallery. But yeah, I'm so excited. I had so much fun building this. I started out by doing a grid system because I wanted all of the pathways to be 2 squares wide, because that's just what looks the most comfortable to me. 1 square wide pathways look so narrow in this game. But I also wanted everything to keep the proportions right. So that's why I started with the grid, and then I worked my way designing the maze from that, and I think it worked out really well. There's only this section right here where I kind of rearranged stuff outside of the grid. Not necessarily outside of the grid, but without the grid first. But yeah, so how I designed this maze is around every single turn, and sometimes along the way there is a surprise. So that's really exciting. I love doing that. So there's so much to explore in this maze, and there's actually a treasure chest. I'm pretty sure it comes with the items already in it. I might have to double check that again. I will definitely double check that, and I will put up on the screen whether it works. So it'll either flash a yes or a no. And sorry if you could hear that pen click, I had to circle. But yeah, so it has a treasure chest, and so if it doesn't come with stuff, you can always put stuff in. And it has a center area, and it's sort of like a rest stop area. And it already has food in it. It also has a cow plant, which is really exciting. And so the food is kind of the spookier themed food, but for some reason it goes bad really fast. So like if you want your Sims to, like, say eat the haunted mint ice cream, you're gonna want to get them through the maze within an hour of putting it down, because otherwise it'll go bad. There wasn't much I could do about that, but I hope that you guys really enjoy that. I thought it'd be really nice to have like everything pre-made and ready to go. But yeah, so, oh goodness, while I was building this, so some of you may or may not know if you follow my Twitter or not, there was a big storm predicted to hit my area, like the biggest that I've been seen in like over 20 years. Like some people were thinking it would be the biggest one in over 50 years. Like, you know, all of the like news channels were like, hey, you gotta like stock up on water and food and make sure you have batteries and flashlights. And it was supposed to be a huge deal. And so it was kind of like a double punch storm. The first one was supposed to be kind of bad, and the next one was supposed to be potentially devastating. And so the first one, was kind of more just a regular windstorm up in my area. And then the second one didn't hit my area. The weather station was off, and so it was the storm that never happened, basically, which was a bit of a letdown in a way. I mean, I'm glad that it meant that less people got hurt, you know, less property damage and whatnot, but, you know, it was definitely like we had our bathtubs full of water. Like we were in like disaster mode. Like hurricane force winds were predicted, which, you know, if you live in a hurricane like prone area, I think maybe you might think, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Like if it's just barely gonna gust up to hurricane force winds, like we've survived hurricanes. But you also got to think about it, and our area isn't prepared for that, you know, like it's we're not used to it. Kind of like where I live, it doesn't snow very much. So when it snows like an inch, school systems shut down because we're not prepared to handle that. We don't have the salt to put on the roads or as quickly, we don't have as many of the snow plows and stuff like that. So anyways, basically what I'm saying, it was supposed to be a huge deal and it wasn't, but I was building this kind of in the middle of everything that was happening with the storm, and I kept saving over and over and over again just to make sure I didn't lose anything, and I didn't. But during the first storm, I was halfway through building this when my parents called me. And the first storm for them, because they live a bit further south than me, was strong enough to knock a tree into my family home. Everybody's fine. Sorry, I should have led with that. I'm so sorry if anyone panicked over that. But everybody is totally fine. Just my dad was home, but, he was standing in the kitchen and he looked outside and he said that, the tree looked like it was really leaning, He was like... Ugh. And then he realized it was leaning because it was falling. And so it fell, and it fell in the best spot it could have, where it caused the least amount of property damage, and, only one room was really affected. But it was definitely kind of like, oh goodness, like one of those moments where you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so luckily nobody was hurt, and it is going to cost some money to fix it, but we have insurance. But that was my little story. That's what was going on while I was building this. And so, yeah. My boyfriend and I's house did run out of electricity at one point. Not for a huge amount of time, but it was in the middle of the night, which was super annoying and frustrating and upsetting because when we lose power, we lose the ability to keep Calcifer warm with his heat lamps. And if you don't know this, hedgehogs need to be kept between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Otherwise, it's just, they shut down. They cannot handle it. And so it can be really hard to keep like that narrow of a temperature range, and so I really rely on those heat lamps. And so I have a whole bunch of backup measures, and I had like a little microwavable heat pad that was heated beforehand and stuff like that, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And my boyfriend pretty much took care of all of it for me, which was so nice. He just wanted to let me sleep, and it was just the nicest thing he could have done. I'm so happy. But yeah, so it did kind of get us a little bit, but like there was no wind. I was kind of excited to see the wind. Like when they're like forecasting like heavy wind, you kind of expect it. But in the end, I'm glad, that there was the least amount of damage as possible. But let's get back to this build. As you might have noticed, there are some mannequins in this. And so I went back off screen, of course, because otherwise that would have taken forever. And I recorded building I dressed up, or I didn't record, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, but I dressed up all the mannequins in the Halloween costumes, and so some of them look spookier than others, and I thought that would just be fun. And I also did add in the Day of the Dead shelf, if you so choose to collect the sugar skulls and put them in there. But yeah, oh, and in the little corner, there's like a ballerina being scared by the bear, and there's just like so much fun stuff. Like I couldn't even capture every corner of this like build with, in the screenshots, because they would have gone on forever. But there's just something fun around every corner, and the center, you can just relax. I mean, there's even like a bush in the maze in case like your Sims need to go to the bathroom, or they need to woohoo, or something. Whatever they need to do. And so some areas are more intense than others. There's also like a little armory area where I put a whole bunch of weapons. And so that was a lot of fun. And so here to really decorate the outside of the maze to make it look good, especially for the gallery thumbnail, I put all those little lanterns up. And so those are sped up so fast. They're sped up like 16 times. I just those specific sections because I wanted to keep them in because it looks kind of cool putting up all these ornaments that quickly, but I didn't want it to really take a huge amount of time so it wouldn't get boring. But yeah, so I'm kind of I didn't want just the like corners of, or like, you know, the little dead ends of the maze to have stuff only, so I tried to decorate some of the walls too. Also, one of the things that was a bit disappointing, and I should have tested before I saved this build to put up on the gallery, the paintings that I have in here, the one that are sized up, when your sim looks at them, they don't change, because they're the Halloween paintings that, you know, like look scary when you look at them too long. And so you have to size them back down. And so I showed that in the intro with the painting size down, but I didn't change it in the build. So that is something that you will have to do yourself if you so choose. I think it looks good either way, but I really didn't want to have to remake all of the food, because by the time I had realized it, I was already recording and hours had passed by and all the food was rotten, which I didn't really care about so much for the intro because that kind of adds to the spookiness. But for actually, like, you know, giving this build to other people, I wanted them to have, you know, the food that their sims can eat. But yeah, I'm sorry if this build is like, oh gosh, it's a bit more camera movie, like jittery than some of my other builds. So I'm sorry about that, because it's just kind of a different build than what I usually do. But here is one of my favorite parts. I used the sort of candy corn zigzag pattern, and at first I thought I was going to go with a natural flooring and add green in some of the sections where it made sense, but then I decided to go with this sort of chevron print, which I did for like my Christmas build a while ago. Christmas maze. I really love making these mazes. And so for this one, I wanted to include the chevron, but the black chevron wasn't dark enough for me, so I added in some of the black wood to really make the orange pop. And I really love how that turned out, and I realized that if you can do it so you only put on 1/4 of a tile, and the way I did it, I could make it look like arrows were pointing. And so it kind of really could throw you off with the maze, like you don't really know which way to go. Like, can you trust the arrows? Like, are they actually leading you in the right direction? Most likely not. And when you look at it up from above, it kind of looks trippy, and it makes it a bit harder to like solve the maze yourself. And I have included a good overhead shot of the maze at the end in case you want to, you know, quickly kind of solve it in your mind. It's not a hard maze. It's really not. It's not that big. But the arrows, the orange lines, I think definitely do make it a bit harder. And so here I am adjusting the lighting settings in this area, and there's just a mirror in this dead end, because the idea is you walk into this dead end and you're supposed to see something spooky or scary, and all you see is a reflection of yourself. Ah, goodness, I am so funny. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this build. If you did, feel free to give me a like, a comment, or subscribe, especially if you'd like to be notified as to when my next build is. I had so much fun making this build for you guys. Comment down below if you want me to show you more mazes or more holiday mazes. But yeah, the screenshots are coming up soon, and I hope you guys are all having a great day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! They won't feed me, Connie. Help! Connie's like, I'm on it, babe. I'm on it. I'll make us the best birthday cake ever. We don't need these fools.